it's a lovely, lovely thing to see all of you in this new year, 2021. We meet on the lands of the original peoples, and for most of us, it's on the Coast Salish people's traditional unceded territory. Now, they've been impacted by colonization just as have Black people and other people of color. And so it is a way to remind myself that I am committed to addressing racism and colonization as part of my commitment as a Unitarian to justice, equity, and recognizing the worth and dignity of every person. I'm Reverend Meg Roberts, and it is my privilege to work with the Beacon Unitarian Church. For our guests and newcomers, we offer you a particularly special welcome. We're glad that you've joined us. And Janet's put into the chat some information about the order of service for those who like to follow along. And also our homepage, beaconunitarian.org, has a connecting form that you can fill out, and then we can connect more in with you. We also offer a special welcome to any families who are new to us. We have programming that we do with the families on special events and for an online connection, as well as monthly packets that go out and other ways of connecting in with us here, including with Ashley Cole, our Director of Religious Explorations. And so if I can ask Janet to drop in Ashley's email address, then if you want to get more information, you can contact her. We know that often small kids don't find Zoom very easy to stay connected to, and so we've got something at the beginning of our service for all ages, and then we know that sometimes they just like to go and draw and do other things, and then we offer programming in other ways to be sure that we're connected together as a community of all ages. All are welcome here. We are so glad to be together in this way. I'm going to ask Sue to lead us in a song, and Nancy to bring up the words, written by my Canadian colleague and friend, Wendy Luella Perkins, We Give Thanks.
Oh, we give thanks for this precious day, for all gathered here and those far away, for the time we share with love and care. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day.
Our chalice lighting words are written by Julianne Lepp. For anyone who would like to join me, if you have a chalice at home that you would like to light, we'll start with the words first. We seek our place in the world and the answers to our heart's deep questions. As we seek, may our hearts be open to unexpected answers. May the light of our chalice remind us that this is a community of warmth, of wisdom, and welcome of multiple truths. I'm going to ask Nancy to bring up a special video that I found as a song for all ages. Now, I'll do a little introduction to this. This song is Open the Window. And so it's inspired by a spiritual from the Georgian Sea Islands called Heist the Window Noah. It comes, of course, from the mythical story from the Hebrew scriptures of a worldwide flood. And after 11 months, Noah released a dove after the flood in order to find land. It came back carrying a freshly plucked olive leaf as a sign of life on the new land. and indicated to Noah that he could open the doors of the ark and let out his family and all the animals and birds and creepy crawlies that he had saved. This is a mythical story of a reminder that despite worldwide catastrophes, there is life afterwards. So in this particular song, the image of "Open the window, children, and let the dove fly in." This song uses only one phrase from the original spiritual, the "Open the window, children, and let the dove fly in." But it holds that original intention of naming situations in our lives, both personal and global, that need that opening for the dove to fly in, for us to find peace. Dove as the symbol of peace. And I figured after the week that we've all experienced, when there are situations that do need opening up and understanding so that we can find solutions as we seek to create peace, this song might be a good one for us. It also is a little, because it's all ages, we get to move our bodies a little bit and move that energy around. So this is Dr. Glenn Thomas Rideout, who's Director of Worship and Music at First Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Ann Arbor, Michigan in Massachusetts, leading this version for all ages. So he gives us some options, just as a heads up. If you don't feel like singing, you can be percussion. Or if you want to sing, then sing and don't worry about the percussion. And if you're really coordinated, you can do both. Give it a go. He is wonderful in the verses. You can do the call and response, which is what I'm going to be doing. He'll sing a line, and then the line that you can sing to join is "Open the window," and then you'll see it on the screen. It's usually the second line in the as we go through into the verses, and then join in for the choruses as they come up, as you feel like you are ready to do so. So I'm going to ask Nancy to start the video, and I hope you enjoy.
Okay, the whole community needs to get involved with this. We need singers and we need percussionists. You can be both, but at least choose one, will you? It goes like this. Open the window, children. Open the window now. Open the window, children. Open the window, let the dove fly in. Open the window, let the dove fly in. Try with me. Open the window, children. Open the window now. Open the window, children. Open the window, let the dove fly in. Open the window, let the dove fly in. Mama and Papa are fighting like snakes. Open the window, let the dove fly in. Baby is crying like her heart will break. Open the window. Neighbors lock their doors, build fences so high. Can't see what's to discover on the other side. Here we go, percussionists. Open the window, children. Open the window now. Open the window, children. Open the window, let the dove fly. Open the window, let the dove fly. Borders round countries and borders round the sky. The only borders that close you are the borders round your mind. Some people have minds, some people have none. But what's the use of money if your heart's gone numb? Let's do it again. Here we go. Open the window, children. Open the window now. Open the window, children. Open the window, let the dove fly in. Open the window, let the dove fly in. This big old world is in a great mess. Open the window, find peace and rest. Open the window, children. Open the window now. Open the window, children. Last time. Open the window, let the dove fly. Open the window, let the dove fly.
Thanks for playing along. I really like Dr. Rideout's approach. And especially in this time when we're virtual, it's really nice to do the call and response. We don't have to be worrying about looking at a hymnal. So having the words there is really great. So there I sit, stunned, on Wednesday, watching the images on my screen in the computer as people break through the thin security lines, forcing their way into the United States Capitol building. As many of you also watched, these people forcing and threatening lawmakers as they were trying to do that final formal work of counting the Electoral College votes that already had decided Joe Biden as the next American president and Kamala Harris as vice president. Those images of the lawmakers in the Senate having to be evacuated or lying down on the under benches and chairs, lying down on the floor, not knowing what's going on, being trapped. In describing this attack, I heard a phrase from a few commentators: the seat of democracy was breached. What an image in this world at this time. 5 people, including a Capitol police officer, died as a result of this siege. I then went back to look at the video of President Trump's speech when he incited this insurrection. And I don't know about you, but I had to watch it a couple of times to really take in that he was actually saying what he was. The words were like dropping a match, a lit match, into a gasoline tank, and the violence, of course, exploded from there. Now, I don't know about you, but I'd been afraid since the election that something like this was going to happen. We know that there had been plans put in place to address this kind of potential violence during the elections. But why wasn't there tighter security, knowing that Trump was holding a rally within walking distance of the Capitol building? I'm sure this is something that we're going to hear more about in the coming weeks. So what a week we've all been through, and another week to come before the inauguration. What happens in the States affects us and the rest of the world greatly. What a year we've just been through with this ongoing pandemic. 88 million people have had the coronavirus worldwide, and 1.9 million have died. People are struggling. Job loss, the economic impact, people's mental and physical health is being affected. There's increased rates of depression. More months ahead as restrictions continue, or in some places, as out east, there's added lockdowns and curfews. It can lead to a sense of meaninglessness. What is all this about? What is my life about in the midst of all this? So what helps us get out of bed in the morning? What gives our life meaning? Has it changed because of the pandemic? It's really struck me that the principle that we chose in last year for this month was very apt. The principle that as Unitarian Universalists we affirm and promote the free and responsible search for truth and meaning. Now, freedom comes with responsibility. And unchecked, of course, we can see the results from this past week. So what is our responsibility? Each Sunday, we sing after our offering, "For all that is our life, for all life is a gift, which we are called to use to build the common good and make our own days glad." To build the common good. Now, in our search for meaning in life, we, of course, each of us are going to turn to different and various sources. And as Unitarian Universalists, we draw from a variety of sources: world religions, science, philosophy, humanism, earth-based spiritual practices. We honor direct experience of that mystery and wonder that has given us life. We listen to the words and deeds of people who speak the truth to power and work for justice, rooted in compassion and in love. It's in challenging times like this that we are so aware of the suffering and the pain in the world, as well in the lives for ourselves and those dear to us. So finding meaning from these sources is really crucial to help give us focus in our lives right now. So what do you turn to help make sense of the world, to make sense of what's going on? Now, I turn to my own life experience and ponder the things that I've learned. And at those times when even that doesn't inspire me, I turn to those that I believe are wise. And of course, I turn to community. As an example of those I find wise was someone mentioned in our Soul Matters group this past Wednesday, Viktor Frankl. He wrote a book called Man's Search for Meaning, of course in the gendered language of his time. I'll shift some of the language to be more inclusive in the quotes I use. Now, for those who don't know him, he was a prisoner in a Nazi concentration camp during World War II. Based on his experience and what he did to try and keep himself and his fellow prisoners motivated, he identified finding a purpose in life to feel positive about and imagining the outcome was a profound motivator. Of course, it didn't mean that everyone who had such a purpose is going to survive the concentration camps. But Frankl got people thinking about how what we think can affect our ability to get through challenging circumstances. It's not comparing, of course, the horrors of the concentration camps to what's happening for us during the pandemic. It's to draw attention to the fact that what we do to help ourselves through this can be, in part, by finding the meaning of what we hold as important to our hearts, to our heads, to our spirits. It could be a simple thing, the beauty of the world, a bird flying by your window, the buds starting to come up out of the ground. It could be a connection to someone dear to you, whether in your family or a friend. It could be loving to read and learn. Maybe it's being committed to contributing to the world through the work that you do, or contributing your time and effort into a community, like here at Beacon. For Frankl, it was focusing on the love of his wife, and that led him through this. In his words, "For the first time in my life, I saw the truth as it's set into song by so many poets, proclaimed as the final wisdom by so many thinkers. The truth that love is the ultimate and highest goal which humans can aspire, then I grasped the meaning of the greatest secret that human poetry and human thought and belief had to impart. The salvation of humanity is through love and in love. Now, for some of you, you may not feel like your suffering right now is very noteworthy. You may feel that others have it so much worse than you. How can you complain? To that, Frankl draws this analogy. He says, a human's suffering is similar to the behavior of a gas. If a certain quantity of gas is pumped into an empty chamber, it will fill that chamber completely and evenly, no matter how big the chamber. Thus, suffering completely fills the human soul and conscious mind, no matter whether the suffering is great or little. Therefore, the size of human suffering is absolutely relative. Now, some of us met with Colin Chow, a counselor, when we met in December to talk about the stress of holidays. Colin told us how stress can release cortisol and how that can build up over time and how it's so much not good for our health, body, heart, and mind. So when we're in stressful situations, we get into that fight, flight, or freeze mode, into that reptilian part of our brains. So how can we move out of that, move out of the amygdala into the frontal cortex to do complex problem solving to help ourselves find ways to release that kind of stress? How can we manage and shift the part of the brain that we are using? Well, he gave us some suggestions, like expressing gratitude, the ritual maybe when you wake up of 3 things that you feel grateful for, maybe meditation or prayer, which I know many of you use, exercise, of course, and humor. Thanks to those who suggested the Death to 2020 video on Netflix. It certainly gave me a good perspective and some great laughs. He also reminded us of the importance of the sense of intimacy, a conversation with someone who gets you, so you can share the truth of how you really are. Colin explained that the brain doesn't know if it's physical or emotional intimacy. So even with physical distancing, you can find emotional closeness, and both the heart and the body benefit. I know in the fall, when I think back, there were days when, I don't know about you, but I definitely found the idea of just staying in bed so appealing. But I knew I needed to motivate myself to get up. So what was important to me? I remembered the community here, like Beacon, and all who care for each other. I thought of those dear friends. I thought of the privilege of the work that I do, the privilege to be able to find meaning together. And those days when we feel like it's meaningless, to have others there holding us too, sharing the meaning they find, and that being enough to keep us going, even when we are struggling. There have been times, even now, when I have to remind myself and to even use a timer to go out for a walk when it's raining. 10 minutes, I say. 5 minutes there, 5 minutes back. And every time I do it, I feel better. I've set up an agreement with myself, 30 minutes doing something that I like to do, whether it's reading a favorite detective show, or detective novel, or watching a bit of a movie, and then 30 minutes that I feel less inclined to clean my house, and always at the end I feel better. Having some order in our homes brings that calmer state of mind. Having a regular routine, Colin reminded us, really does help us through the challenges. Now, I know that meaning making is not just done in the head, but also in the heart and in the spirit. It's not some fixed thing. It's something to be developed, to be decided on and committed to over and over again. It changes through our lives and through the circumstances of our lives. Now, that's not always going to be easy, depending on what's happening to us or our own makeup or other life challenges, whether past or present. Colin mentioned to us back in December something called the three-quarter syndrome. Now, those of you who were there will remember this. In polar and space missions, they say there's a decline in performance during the third quarter of missions in isolated, confined, and extreme environments, regardless of the actual mission duration. It can be observed through changes in cognitive and interpersonal behavior, and an increase in reported negative experiences and undesirable mood states. Well, many of us may know what he's talking about there. Now, typically, mood and morale reach their lowest point somewhere between the 1/3 and 2/3 mark of the mission. Now, we are still in that period of time. This three-quarter syndrome was originally found back in 1985 in a book called Living Aloft, Human Requirements for Expended Space Flight, which identified 3 broad stages of reaction to prolonged isolation. The first stage is of heightened anxiety, which I imagine many of us experienced last spring. The second stage of settling down to routine, marked for some by depression. And there's the summer and some of the fall. And the third stage of anticipation is marked by emotional outbursts, aggressiveness, and rowdy behavior, which immediately made me think of this last week with what was happening in the Capitol, with the various demonstrations that we see by people who don't want to be masked or told what to do. So how has this pandemic impacted our behavior as individuals as well as the society that we are part of? Now, there is some hope. Dr. Norris, who did studies of those stationed in the Antarctic research stations in 2000, wrote, "Those who have been through a period of isolation value the experience for what it has taught them. They have a better idea of their personal values, and they're more committed to acting on them." She wrote, "When people have space to sit back and think, it allows them to figure out what's important to them. That's why post-COVID," she said, "we will see differences in the way that people engage with each other, in the way people work, in the priorities given to the environment, and the way people think about travel." So how will this time affect what gives meaning to your life? Have you noticed a shift in your priorities? How do you plan to take some of those shifts into life after the society-wide vaccinations? I believe that part of how we discover meaning in our lives is having a chance to talk about it, to articulate it. So I'm going to invite us now, if you're willing, to go into small groups. We're going to have a quick 6 minutes. So groups of 3, a quick 2 minutes each, to respond to the question, if you're willing, of these. What gives your life meaning right now? How can you get even out of bed in the morning? What motivates you? And when it feels meaningless, what do you do? Who or what do you turn to? So Janet's going to open the rooms for us. We'll send a little message out to remind you when the 2 minutes has passed and it's time to move to the next person. For those who are new to going into conversation rooms, you'll see a little sign pop up that you have to accept going into the room. For anybody who prefers not to go into those conversation rooms, I'll stay in the main room as well, and just so know, you can also opt out and just have a 6 minutes to stretch and have a bit of a break. But I do hope you'll take this opportunity to explore for yourself and with others what gives meaning, and if you find it meaningless right now, what do you do? Who do you turn to? So I'll ask Janet to open up our conversation rooms. I'm just going to finish up with a few words here. We will sing a song later in the service with these words. We would be one in searching for that meaning which bends our hearts and points us on our way. We can learn from each other, learn the meaning that we are taking from this about where our hearts bend and which way they're now pointing us. We can learn from science, the social sciences like with Viktor Frankl. We can learn from the artists like songs. We can learn from spiritual practices and wise ones. And there are wise ones here in the call and in our lives. Most importantly, we have each other. As in the reading earlier by Tess Baumberger, there is a deeper, humbler, more beautiful truth. We deeply need each other, especially now. We can pull together across distances to form a surface across which light things can dance and which can nurture life. So might it be. Making meaning out of our lives is supported when we get to share our joys and sorrows and milestones. This congregation has a beautiful ritual when we do this, and we have about 10 minutes. So yeah, 8 to 10 people, if that would like to share something. We'll ask you to say your name and try to keep it to a few sentences so other people have time to share. And if instead you'd like to type it into the chat, you can do that. But I first like to I'm going to ask if Janet can spotlight me. There are 2 candles that I would like to light. The first is a celebration of the life of Jean Donaldson, who died on Monday, and she's dear to many. So remembering Jean's life. And also, I'd like to light a candle for another person in the community, another longtime Unitarian who, this is Bob Thompson and his wife Kay, have been part of the Beacon community in the last couple of years. Bob died on Monday as well. So for Bob's life and celebrating it. They were longtime members of the Kamloops Fellowship. We look forward to having a time together when we have a celebration of life for each of them, and I'm connecting in with their families to be able to arrange that, and we'll let you know. So, now for you. I'm going to ask Nancy to bring up the slide and to remind ourselves that here at Beacon, we support this community through sharing our resources of energy and finances and skills and talents. For our Sharing the Plate, because we're virtually connected, accept donations through Interac, sent to Beacon, a treasurer at beaconunitarian.org, and just note which portion of the funds you want to apply to Beacon, if pledge or general donation, or Sharing the Plate, which will go to the New West Hospice Society, half of it, and half to Beacon. So we'll go to the next slide, and Sue will lead us in the sung response.
For all that is our life, we sing our thanks and praise. For all life is a gift, which we are called to use to build the common good and make our own days glad.
And we're in this good singing voice, so we're going to roll forward into the congregational song, number 318, We Would Be One. And Sue, take it away.
We would be one as now we join in singing our hymn of love to pledge ourselves anew to that high cause of greater understanding of who we are and what in us is true. We would be one in living for each other to show to all a new community. We would be one in building for tomorrow a nobler world than we have known today. We would be one in searching for that meaning which bends our hearts and points us on our way. As one we pledge ourselves to greater service, with love and justice strive to make us free.
Thanks, Sue. We'll just roll forward into thanking everyone who was involved with today's service, whose names you'll see on this slide and on the next. As well, you'll see those who work behind the scenes to help support, and those who support us as well in the coffee hour conversation groups. We'll have a 10-minute break after the service, and then we'll get together and have a chance to check in the first round. And then afterwards, we will be doing the small group conversations about the theme, one about the service, and then one just general discussion. For anyone who's interested in the theme of this month, the free and responsible search for truth and meaning, we're going to have one of the check-in groups I'll be leading to review our theme packet for this month and what that theme means to us. I also wanted to just say before Carry the Flame that in 2 weeks' time, I'll be leading the service on January the 24th about where has your search for truth led you? What are the questions that you are still seeking answers for? So if there are questions that you struggle with in your search for truth, in the bigger issues of life, then email them to me in the next 10 days so I can consider them, or put them into the chat now if you like, either privately to me or, if you don't mind, to everyone. And then I'll have a chance to consider them in the reflection on truth. And last but not least, in the thank yous, we thank all of you for joining us today and sharing this experience. Our closing words by George G. Brooks. May the love that gives to life its beauty, the reverence that gives to life its sacredness, and the purposes that give to life its deep significance be strong within each of us and lead us into ever deepening relationships with all of life. Amen. So be it. If you'd like to join me in extinguishing the chalices that you have with you at home, and Sue will lead us in singing Carry the Flame.
And if you'd like to switch to gallery view, if you put your hands out like this, It will be like we're connecting together. And then we can end by being the flame of the chalice itself. Carry the flame of peace and love until we meet again. Carry the flame of peace and love until we meet again.
Thanks, Sue.